Missouri and Louisiana have filed lawsuits against Joe Biden, Jen Psaki, Dr. Fauci, and other top-ranking officials for allegedly colluding with social media companies to suppress freedom of speech under the guise of combating misinformation. This is a bold claim and a bit of a legal stretch, in my opinion, but there's an actual argument here. They make a really good point for collusion, but I don't know if it can stand legally, that they will actually win this lawsuit. But at the very least, it definitely looks like some kind of government coercion on social media platforms. The reason collusion probably fits better, let me give you the simple version of their lawsuit. There are numerous instances in which stories have been suppressed that hurt Democrats. Democrats have threatened to wield legal action, litigation against these big tech platforms, notably repealing Section 230 or changing it unless they get what they want. Big tech platforms then took down stories that hurt Democrats. You see the point. Now, one may argue that Republicans also have threatened 230. Yes, but big tech did not take down stories that hurt Republicans. They amplify them. That is the tendency. That is the rule, not the exception. It's typically like the Hunter Biden laptop story is the best example. Or how about people who got suspended for defending Kyle Rittenhouse when it turns out the courts agreed, the facts agreed Rittenhouse was defending himself, consistently upholding a left and pro-Democrat narrative. I don't know if this lawsuit will fly. But here's the Twitter thread from Attorney General Eric Schmidt. This is the Missouri Attorney General who says that he's filed these suits. In his thread, he says, the lawsuit filed today alleges that the Biden administration colluded with and pressured social media giants Meta, Twitter, and YouTube to suppress and censor free speech on topics like the Hunter Biden laptop story, the lab leak theory, and more. Here are just a few examples included in the lawsuit that show that top-ranking government officials colluded with social media companies to censor and suppress freedom of speech. In October 2020, after publishing an article on the contents of Hunter Biden's laptop, the New York Post's main Twitter account was locked, and Twitter blocked other users from sharing the link. The lawsuit states, Biden, his allies, and those acting in concert with them falsely attacked the Hunter Biden laptop story as disinformation. Over a year and a half later, the Washington Post and the New York Times acknowledged the truth and reliability of the story, but not before the damage was done and free speech was suppressed by Twitter and companies. Beginning in February 2020, Facebook and other social media platforms began aggressively censoring speech about the lab leak theory, and Facebook updated its content moderation on COVID-19 to include false and debunked claims that COVID-19 was man-made or manufactured. According to the lawsuit, Dr. Anthony Fauci, who is director of the NIAID, funded gain-of-function research, was exchanging emails with Mark Zuckerberg regarding public messaging and the dissemination of COVID-19 information on social media. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. Alleged collusion, bro. You're saying Fauci was exchanging emails with Mark Zuckerberg about censorship policies, and then the information got censored? It's right there. Plain as day. In a March 15, 2020 email, Zuckerberg proposed to coordinate with Fauci to make sure people can get authoritative information from reliable sources, and proposed including a video message from Fauci because people trust and want to hear from the experts. I love to say experts in terms of Dr. Fauci because boy, was that guy wrong. Only after major media outlets confirmed that COVID-19 escaping from a lab is a feasible possibility did Facebook and others stop censoring speech related to the lab leak theory. Even the Wall Street Journal writes Facebook acted in lockstep with the government, speaking to them, working with them, and censoring information. That is a violation of 1A. He goes on. According to Unheard, Facebook slapped warnings on posts related to the veracity of the lab leak theory, and Facebook itself claimed when people saw those warning labels, 95% of the time, they did not go on to view the original content. As a candidate, Joe Biden repeatedly threatened social media companies for not doing enough to combat misinformation. In a January 17th, 2020 interview with the New York Times editorial board, then candidate Biden stated that Section 230 of the CDA should be revoked. According to the lawsuit, candidate Biden also threatened that Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg should be subject to civil liability and even criminal prosecution for not censoring such core political speech. Further, in or around June 2020, the Biden campaign published an open letter and online petition calling for Facebook to engage in more aggressive censorship of core political speech. Even further, on September 28th, 2020, the Biden-Harris campaign sent a letter to Facebook accusing it of propagating a storm of disinformation by failing to censor the Trump campaign's political speech, including social media political ads. Now in office, the Biden administration continues to threaten and collude with social media companies to suppress freedom of speech. Attorney General Eric Schmidt continues. In a May 5th, 2021 press conference, Psaki stated, "The president's view is that the major platforms have a responsibility related to the health and safety of all Americans to stop amplifying untrustworthy content, disinformation, and misinformation." In the same press conference, Psaki said that President Biden supports better privacy protections and a robust antitrust program. In a July 15th, 2021 press conference, Psaki stated, "We are in regular touch with these social media platforms, and those engagements typically happen through members of our senior staff. It is right there, staring you in the face as we watch these big tech platforms destroy our speech, shut down legitimate conversations, all at the behest of the Democrats." Psaki also said, in that press conference, the White House was coordinating directly with Facebook to censor speech. "We're flagging problematic posts for Facebook that spread disinformation." This is huge. Wow, man. All right. Let's discuss, my friends. Lies are free speech. Let me say that again for you. Lies are free speech. Sucks, doesn't it? However, you do have a civil action you can take in the event someone lies about you. I believe one of the biggest problems we have is with Times v. Sullivan. I do enjoy certain protections under Times v. Sullivan, but for the most part, I'm not seeking to lie about anybody. So it's only the liars who are really being protected by such standards. Times v. Sullivan is the actual malice standard for defamation. But if someone lies about you, you can sue for damages. It's not easy. But it's true. The reason why lies are free speech is that the government doesn't have the authority to determine what's true. This is actually part of the lawsuit. If we go over, they actually mention falsehoods are free speech. They say, the Orwellian guise of halting disinformation, misinformation, malinformation, or whatever. And they point out that the government doesn't have the authority to determine what is true and what isn't. And thus, it has been determined by the Supreme Court that falsehoods are protected speech. The Democrats did something wrong. They coerced these companies in direct communication. The companies agreed. It doesn't matter if it is collusion. What matters is that it is coercion, and the government is not allowed to coerce a private entity to suppress their speech through threats of legal action, litigation, or criminal action. In this instance, it was, we'll pass a law hurting you. So I think it's clear. I think we need more people to get involved in these lawsuits. And we need to shut this down. We need to absolutely shut it down, because it is impossible for us to function as a democratic institution, a constitutional republic with democratically elected representatives, if the information being sent out is all completely fake, but at the behest of government. If the government is going to make the threats, then they've already violated the First Amendment. What happened in 2016? Where Twitter went from being the free speech wing of the free speech party to the censorship platform. I think it's very obvious. You take a look at everything presented, and now we go back in time and look at the history. What do we have? Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube used to just be like, do your thing. Reddit as well. But then Donald Trump won. All of a sudden after this, misinformation was the key issue. People had to be suppressed, censored, and shut down for hate speech, for bigotry, for saying learn to code, for saying the name of a guy who works for the CIA, whose name you still can't say. You say his name and they'll shut you down. I think it's obvious that after Donald Trump won, powers that be, the establishment political class and the administrative state, took action against big tech platforms to suppress information that hurt their power. This is not how the United States works, and you are losing.